when Toot and the Booty came out.
Yeah.
That song to this day is a West Coast classic.
It's a classic.
It helped launch the careers of YG, Mustard, Ty Dolla. That song put everybody on the map.
And I need to let everybody know, Brandon produced that track.
Yes.
Brandon produced that track. I don't know. I know when you read the credits, you see Ty Dolla $ign, and no disrespect to Ty, and he know who I am too. So he know what's cracking. Every time I see them, they already know G.CA O, so I yell it out.
Yeah. Do you remember the moment when that song kind of like got legs and took off? Do you remember what was the vibe like around that time?
Yeah.
Well,
I remember listening to it. I was like,
I remember listening to it.
I heard it before. And I ain't gonna lie, I wasn't a fan of it. Brandon come playing it in my studio. I'm like, what the hell is that, man? See, Brandon, he was so ahead of the game. The 808s and all of that stuff. You know what I mean? I figure like that's old school, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Never did I think that, man, this fool brought it all back with that song. And he said, Dad, this gonna be the biggest song. Okay, man, I wanna say a couple months after that, then it catches, you know, oh, man, Brandon, how did you know? You know what I mean? And it blew up.
Oh, we live with it.
Hey, we are live right now, man. Here we are, Island Mogul, We All Win, episode number 4. We got a special one for y'all, man. We got a whole legend in the building right now, man. This guy has lived a life that very few can say they lived. In his heyday, man, he was the bodyguard in Hollywood. He worked for everybody from Chris Brown, Rihanna, Meek Mill, Nick Cannon, man, you name it. Go down the list, he's probably worked with him at some point, man. On top of that, he's a dad. He's raised 2 5-star athlete sons, one of which is a starting quarterback at Clemson University, DJ. His second son, Matayo, is the leading edge rusher in the country at St. John Bosco. And on top of that, man, he works closely with the youth. He's a mentor. He's a coach. He's just an overall force of good in our culture, man. We're excited today to welcome our brother, Big Dave.
Hey.
Yes, sir.
Clap it up, man.
Thank you.
Hey, man, thank you so much for coming on set and joining us, man. It's been a minute, but we made this one happen, man, so it had to happen.
Yeah.
How you feeling today?
Man, I'm truly blessed, first and foremost. I've watched you guys' stuff, and I was, when you guys asked me to come on, definitely was like honored to come here, you know, just seeing 2 young Usos, you know, to follow your dreams and do what y'all do, man. I just wanted to be here, and, you know, I'm always trying to help, you know, always trying to give back. I feel like my life is truly blessed. And yeah, man, I just said, hey, let's do it. Got a lot to say.
Yes.
A lot to say.
We're going to touch on all of it, too. We're going all the way in.
But
just a little bit of background, because if you're sitting here watching, wondering how the hell did we, of all people, get in touch with Big Dave, man. You know, if you follow us on Instagram, there was a post that we had made about 2 months ago, just highlighting bodyguards, Polynesian bodyguards throughout history. And
big dudes.
Yeah, you know, because we've been in this game for a minute when it comes to the bodyguard and stuff, right? But we had highlighted a few bodyguards, but there was one name in particular that kept being mentioned to us. I don't know how many times, bro. That thing probably went 600-700 times. Big Dave, Big Dave.
I used to think that my phone actually had Big Dave as a contact. Right? I'm like, Deuce.
So, you know, after doing our due diligence and doing our research, man, we found out who Big Dave is and what he's meant to the culture. And from that day forward, we said, man, we got to get Big Dave on the podcast. And then here we are, man. So, yeah, that came into reality. Like you said, we got a lot of things we want to touch, but
yeah, before we get into everything we want to talk about, let's start on a lighter note. I don't know if you've seen that we do a little rapid fire questions. You know, I'm just gonna ask you a little question. Nothing crazy, nothing crazy, but it's just little simple questions. So, you got the timer, Russo?
I got you right. 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, bet. What was the best food you've ever had?
My mama's soiled chicken.
Ooh. 2 words that best describe you. 2 words.
You like
loving and caring.
Bet. Okay. All right. What was the first job you ever had?
Subway.
Okay.
Subway. Oh, man, dude, make some sandwiches. Okay, for sure. Well, when you're watching your kids play, are you the conservative or the outspoken type of it?
to conservative, but I don't know how to. It's in between because I'm not. I mean, I'm loud, you know what I mean, but never disrespectful. That's what I meant. Like,
okay. All right. What was the most exciting city or country you visited?
Man, have to be where they be smoking weed at, man.
Oh, Amsterdam.
Amsterdam,
bro. We all know Amsterdam.
Oh, yeah, Amsterdam, man. It was crazy.
Yeah,
it was
the Red
on
Light District.
Chris Brown World Tour was out there.
Okay, that's dope. That's dope. Okay. Top 5 music artists, in your opinion?
In no particular order.
No particular order.
Yeah.
However you feel about it.
I'm a Boyz II Men R&B guy.
Okay.
Boyz II Men, Brian McKnight.
Okay.
If it's the island, it's, Fiji.
Okay, can't go wrong with Fiji.
Yeah.
One more.
Who else is there? I like a lot of music, man.
It's
all
hard.
good. Hey, it's one of them things where when we start talking about music,
that's
we
four
keep
right
on
there.
going. All right, we'll go to the next question then. If you were a wrestler, what would your entrance song be? Come on, man. If you was a wrestler, man, what would that song be?
Welcome to the jungle.
Because it Roses, you know what it is. Yeah. All right. What's the most embarrassing fashion trend you used to rock?
Ooh.
Oh man, I used to have a mullet when I was young.
I told you. Hey,
Yeah.
I told him.
The bullet. Hey, we need that photo on
I'm gonna need the
screen.
photo. I'm gonna need the photo. We're gonna go look for that after the show. Which one of your kids gives you the hardest time?
Matayo, man.
Okay.
Mateo.
Yeah, this guy, you can't debate with him. I mean, I'm just telling you. This guy he'll go to YouTube, he'll go to Google.
Oh man.
Make sure you're wrong.
Stop fraternizing your damn your dad, man, for real. All right, man. Hey, I got one more question, man. Hey, when you're gone, how do you want to be remembered in the world?
Man, that I was here to help people, man. Anybody, at the end of the day, I feel that's my gift, is to just try to help folks, That's what I want to be known for, just helping people.
Dope,
That's right. That's right. Let's give it up. Let's give it up.
Yeah.
You made it through it.
Came out. We learned a lot about you. We still got a lot more to learn, but the last answer, you said that you want to be remembered helping people. And that's a legacy that you've already established.
Yeah.
That you're carrying on with all the work that you're doing. Let's kind of start a little bit about your background and your upbringing. So we know that you were born in Orange County, right?
Yeah.
Garden Grove.
Yeah.
Moved to Hawaii.
Yep.
Spent some time out there. You came back out here at what age?
12.
12, okay.
Yeah.
So this is like what, 80s?
Yep.
Okay.
85.
85. What was we're talking like Pomona, right?
Man, okay. At the time in Pomona, 85, it was leading the murder rate in the country.
Right. Yep.
Only because all the folks from LA moved that way.
Yeah. They
got sick and tired of getting in trouble in LA. So all those guys just moved out there towards east, towards Pomona, and Pomona was going crazy. I remember moving there, and I asked my mom, would they pop firecracker every day here or something? And my mom was like, yeah, but really it was gunshots.
Right.
I had no idea.
So being 12, 13, coming to, the gangs, crack epidemic, it was a crazy time in LA. Yeah. What was your experience as a teenager like? How were you adjusting to this whole new lifestyle?
It was just, when we got here, man, I didn't really own a pair of shoes or pants. Only because in Hawaii, we wore slippers.
Right.
We went to school barefooted and with slippers sometimes. So coming here was just a drastic change, you know what I mean? You got to buy pants because it's cold and freezing. You got to have some, I ain't never really met a Hispanic person before. That was probably the first time for me. And we had 2 black brothers in the school. So, man, just seeing a whole lot of that, just the culture, it was a culture shock for me and my brothers. And I remember at the time, we didn't really have a lot of money, so we had to go and, find ways to try to get, just to buy the clothes that we need, you know what I mean? My dad just got a job too, so with Arco. That's the whole reason why we moved up. So that's, it was just a culture shock, man.
I heard a rumor. You can clear it. I heard you was doing 360 dunks
360
and
dunks.
throwing the ball 80 yards, something crazy stuff like that.
I was what they called a halftime show.
Okay.
Because in high school, I could never get eligible for sports.
Okay.
And at halftime, I would come up on a basketball court, do all these dunks. Then at the football field, I'd be throwing the ball 80 yards, you know.
Oh, my goodness.
A lot of the people that know me and my brothers, the Pomona boys,
Okay.
when we're younger, they know that we were talented kids, you know, but I was just a knucklehead, man. I didn't like school. It was hard. Growing up, we moved a lot. So, like, my first grade, I was at one place. My second grade, I was at one place. Third grade, I was in Samoa. Fourth grade, come back to another place in Hawaii. So, I never really, school didn't click with me, you know what I mean? The athletic ability, I was always probably one of the top, you know, everywhere we went.
Yeah.
I used to love, when we moved here in 86, 85, 86, I fell in love with basketball. Every morning, I used to go to school at 7 o'clock just to get there because they play ball before school starts. I'd be sweaty as hell. But that's where I learned how to play. And we had kids in 8th grade dunking then. You know what I mean? I got tired of getting dunked on. And eventually I started dunking in 8th grade.
Yeah.
So, you know, start learning the game. So I was, if I was I don't blame my parents, not at all. They only raised us on the way they knew how to, you know, their first generation here. So if I had me as a parent, I'd be in the league right now, no doubt. Everybody that know me knows I should have been in the league. You know, there's nobody, you ever heard a person 356 pounds, doing 360 dunks.
Yeah.
I get it. I seen people dunk the ball. You know what I mean? I two-hand dunk. No, I was 360.
Yeah.
Like I was agile, 356 pounds, agile. I could go to a park and break the rim if I'm not next. That's how kind of a punk I am.
Yeah.
Because you go there and they got like 7 games up, you know what I mean? And I'm like, well, hold up. Either I'm next or I'm breaking the rim.
Okay, you one of those guys.
Oh, here come Big Dave. Yeah. Like,
Here come Debo, how you change, man?
Simone's here again.
You know, but
Yeah, so the athletic ability, you know you had that from the start.
Yeah.
But it was just more so like the education thing. That wasn't that was, and that's a struggle for a lot of our polys. You know what I'm saying? And going back to your point, you said, you know, if you had parents, because a lot of our parents, especially first generation, it was survival mode. You know what I'm saying? Keep the lights on, keep food on the table. All the dreams and aspirations, we don't got time for that because we gotta transition. And so I totally get it from that standpoint. You had these gifts, but maybe your parents weren't trying to foster them and develop them because they're focused on other things. You know what I'm saying? And so you being young, teenage, having gifts and abilities, but being distracted from other things, right? What type of trouble were you getting into as a teen, man?
I mean, I'll give an example. I was playing at Mount Sac Junior College.
Okay.
And the only reason why I played was because my brother and my cousins were all there. So this was in '95. And I said, no, let me go try and play. You know what I mean? I know I'm good. So as I'm playing, I get in trouble. And I got put on house arrest.
Okay.
So I'm out there with a house arrest thing on my ankle.
Yeah.
And every time I line up, the DN is like, bruh, you on house arrest?
Are you going to practice with the house arrest?
Oh, bro, I'm on house arrest for the whole season. Doing in the game and everything.
Man.
I got pictures of me and my brother Ito, and it's me standing there with the house arrest thing on my ankle. Yeah, so honestly, that was an eye-opener for me. I believe all the stuff that I experienced going through, you know, not going to school or getting in trouble, getting suspended, getting kicked out of high school my sophomore year, not finishing school and playing at Mount Sac with that thing on my ankle. The coach that coached me there, Jack Strap, who's the head coach now, he tells everybody Dave should have been in the league. I think I was the only one at Mount Sac. I would go, you know, you do one-on-one practices. I would do D-line and O-line.
Damn.
I would kick their butts on O-line and then come back on D-line and serve them on D-line. But the whole thing that I want, you know, all of that stuff, the adversity and everything I went through, I think it was meant to be. Because as I had my kids, boy, I would never allow all that shenanigans shit that I was doing back then to ever happen to my kids. So I'm thankful and grateful. Sometimes people don't understand, you know, all that adversity and everything that you go through in life. That's the things that really, really are teaching you for the future, you know what I mean? So the success that you see my kids, DJ and Mattel now, it all started when my childhood, you know what I mean? Going through that knucklehead stage of not listening, not going to school, ditching and all that stuff, you know. So I thank God for it, you know what I mean? I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah, I mean, all those lessons definitely give you perspective and helps guide your children because you know, like, hey, man, I already went down that route. I'm telling you, that's not where you want to go. So that's really like the best way to look at all the adversity that we go through is for a purpose. And in the moment, you probably didn't, you didn't realize it, but yeah, looking back, you see it. But so transitioning from, you got the ankle monitor on and, you're getting in trouble, but I know that led you to your next career. Yeah. To tell us about where that led you to.
What happened next?
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, like, again, because of being on house arrest, people don't know it. You have to pay to be on house arrest. That was $400 a month.
Man. Back then, too. That's a lot. Man.
And I looked at my mom and dad. I said, hell no, I'm going to put this burden on my mom and dad.
Yeah.
So I just made some phone calls, and that's how my security, really just revamped up. Like, I need to go make some real money.
Yeah.
I was doing it before, but I had cousins out there in Hollywood named Olo and Star. These are the guys that really brought me into this game. Shout out to those two brothers that opened the door for me. And I remember there was a club called Martini Lounge.
Okay.
There was a club called Roxbury. And these are the clubs they were running, they were working at and stuff like that. They brought me in, Miyagi's, Dublin's. And the funny part was, they brought me in, but they all know how I work. You know what I mean? I'm a fast learner.
Yeah.
Quick at the mouth. I know how to do business, you know what I mean? And eventually I started working everywhere in Hollywood, all the big clubs.
So how old are you at this time?
Yeah, that's what that's.
I want to say I started working security at 21, and then it just went on to about 22, 23.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're running the scene on the security.
That's such a big thing.
Yeah, I mean, obviously your physical stature, there's no questions like, hey, you want to do, you do what you got to do.
Yeah, no, it was more of, I just knew in this game you got to take care of everybody. So if you're making money, you got to make sure your guys is all taken care of too.
That's important.
And back then there was a club called Peanuts in L.A. It was the #1 lesbian club on Tuesday nights. There was a club called Jamaica Gold. That was Tuesday nights. It was called Dragonfly. These are all clubs that your uncles them used to run. Lingerie. What else? But these are all clubs. For 6 nights a week, I would work 5 clubs, different clubs. And all 5 clubs, I'll be the doorman. And
so you made more than enough to pay for that house.
Bro, a normal night is between $800 to $1,200. A normal night.
Man.
A good night. I remember when '99 when we won the Lakers championship, $3,400 that night. I still have that leather jacket that I wore back then, and I still find money coming out the pocket sometimes. My favorite part is walking to the car and taking all the money out, putting it on the hood. Like, damn.
Yeah.
That's a good feeling at that age.
Bro.
You know what I'm saying? That's a good ass feeling at that age, man.
Yeah, I have back then we had a planner. Guys, we didn't have these phones.
Right.
So we had a planner. And in the planner was a 1997 planner. And I put in every night I was making, I would put it in there. And I look at it now, I was like, damn, what the hell did I do with all this money?
So, I mean, you're young, you're in your early 20s, you're making thousands of dollars a night, right? What was the first big thing you bought?
I really didn't buy anything. Well, you know what? My first car was a Lexus.
Okay.
What kind?
ES or I don't know what. I forgot.
This is early 90s.
Yeah,
so
we think
early 90s
little
model
further.
Lexus.
But the 90s
Okay.
Lexus was fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn. So you're doing this for how long, relatively, before you move on to the next step?
Well, I met their mom, my kid's mom, during that time.
Okay.
Yeah, between 96 and 97. And ended up, we moved in together. So I could be out that way. So that's what the plan was. It was never for me I ended up going back to college in 99, 2000.
Okay.
And at this time, I'm still working. You know what I mean? I'm still doing the whole Bodyguard thing, still doing all. And I just went to go play just to see what happens, you know what I mean? Just one semester, that's all. ended up going to West Texas A&M.
Oh,
Yeah,
dope.
yeah, and
Dope.
that, you know, it was just one semester. You know, had two pro teams that fell in love with me.
Wow.
The only problem is DJ was born in 2001, and you got to work.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's either work or play football. They wanted me to go and train, and they saw me in the combine. I was killing it in the combines, but the problem was I was out of shape. You know, again, Dave, I'm the kind of guy that don't like to work out. You know what I mean? Had that stupid ass attitude, like, why do I gotta work out? I'm gonna start anyways.
Right.
Line anybody up, they all get it. And it was true, they would all get it. The problem is, man, that's why I believe talent can take you so far.
That's true.
You're always gonna meet that one dude who busts his ass every day. You're gonna meet that kid like DJ Matayo. You know what I mean? Even though God blessed them with talent, but I know my kids and what the work they put in.
Right.
You know what I mean? Since they were young kids, you're gonna meet that guy, and your talent ain't gonna save you.
That's true.
Yeah.
It only takes you so far. You got to combine that talent with the work ethic, and that's what takes you to the next levels.
So that's why I didn't pan out with the football part. You know what I mean? So I came back home and just really went hard with the Bodyguard.
And then I know, you know, from our research, your first celebrity client that you watched over was a pretty famous R&B group at the time.
Yeah.
Man. Tell us about that.
Immature.
Immature, yeah.
Man,
AKA IMX, Marcus Houston, right?
I still talk to Marcus.
Yeah.
Good dude, man. I still talk to them. It was funny because back then, you know, I didn't feel like I was a bodyguard. I felt like I was a kid hanging with some more kids, bro. You know what I mean? Just because I was a kid at heart. Anybody that know me, and watching these guys, us Polynesians, I'm just saying, we're natural born protectors. You didn't go ahead and take all the classes you want. I'm just telling you, this is the same things I told Tadal, same things I told Big Bill, you know, all the guys in the game. I just told them to just take care of your client like you take care of your mom and dad. What would you do for your mom and dad? Trust me, they'll end up falling in love with you, all your clients. And that's what was my motto, you know what I mean? I get it, you gotta have the technical part about it, you know what I mean? Yeah, go ahead, do your due diligence on getting all of that, but at the same time, the core of who we are and how we protect people is simple. This is the man that's putting the food on your table and a roof over your head. What would you do for this man? Right. I would go over and beyond my job. I carry their bags. You know what I mean? I do everything. And they fall in love with you, man. They do. They want you around all the time. Every client I work for, you know, that kind of stuff happens. You know what I'm saying? I get it. People ask me, Dave, you ain't doing it no more? I do it on the side. You know what I mean? I remember I got called to come and work with DJ Khaled, you know what I mean, for 4 days. The BT Awards, you know what I mean? And I worked for him, and at the end, you know, he just loved the way I move, you know what I mean? And he wanted me to come on. But, you know, in the bodyguard world, is the guy whoever puts you on, you got to tell Kelly that's you got to go to him, you know? But me, I didn't want to, because I know that life. Yeah. You don't have a life, bro.
Right.
You're stuck with your client 24/7. I'm not these bodyguards where you just call me to be at a club.
Right. Yeah.
Not that kind of bodyguard. I live with them. I'm with them 24/7. I know the schedule, where we're going.
Yeah.
You know, we're out during the week. We get a whole schedule email to us of what we're doing. You know, so it's hard, bro, being a bodyguard.
How were you? How old were your kids when you were away? You know, how hard was that balance for you?
That was hard. DJ was from about 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. You know, all those years, and it wasn't. I knew what I was supposed to be doing. You know, going out making this bread. It got hard when DJ asked me when he was 9, Dad, why you never home? You know, that's when it got hard. And you know, Chris Brown gave me an out. During 2009, when he got in that little altercation with Rihanna. Nobody was trying to give him a gig or nothing. And I felt like this is the time I need to, because that's when DJ. You know, and I thought about it. I said, you know, I started asking people who had kids from from out of high school. I said, did it go by fast from kindergarten to high school?
Yeah.
Every parent said like a blink of an eye. Then I said, is it really that important to go out here and make all this money and not be with your family? You know what I mean? And I started seeing that DJ is that kid, you know what I mean, on the sports. And I didn't want him to be raised and not have his daddy behind him, you know. Yeah. He had, the backbone of our family was his mom, you know, straight up. Even though we're divorced, I'm not even going to lie about nothing.
Yeah.
You know, she was the backbone of our family. We couldn't do anything without her. So she was such a great wife that she allowed me to still go and hustle. You know, so when I decided to come back and say, you know what, I'm gonna go get a regular job, which was at Pomona Unified School District. Wow. I became the school police. But what I made there in a month, a whole month, because we get paid every month. What I made there in a month, I could make in 3 to 4 days as a bodyguard.
God damn.
Yeah, it was hard.
That's a big jump.
Yeah, so I had to work about 3, 4 jobs.
Wow.
I had to do whatever I had to do. Some stuff I can't even say it, but you got to do what you got to do to provide for your kids, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And your wife. And that's all I knew. I just knew how to go and hustle. And when I did work security, you know, I do it on the side, but I didn't want to. Sometimes they want me to come back on. I couldn't, man. I couldn't. I saw what DJ and Matayo was going to be before it happened. Everybody, if they watch this, people all in Upland, where my kids grew up, they'll all tell you, they all look at me, they'll tell you, we thought David was crazy.
Yeah.
Big Dave crazy. He said his kids, I didn't say they're going to be like the #1 players in the country, but I knew they're going to be successful, you know what I mean, in football. I knew, yes, I did say my son was going to be the #1 quarterback in the country.
Yeah.
I did say that. And he was only 9 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was it in him that you saw?
I'm going to be honest, man. Did I know it was really going to happen? No. But as a father, and I encourage this to every father out there, look for the best in your kid. Yes, I knew DJ when we were throwing footballs at 2, 3 years old. I knew for a fact because we play ball.
Yeah.
You can tell if a kid who can throw the football, I'm like, wait a minute, this kid don't just throw regular, you know what I mean? I was like, man, this guy got talent. So we just started throwing the football. Then he played a flag football at 7 years old. Man, he was so athletic, big, you know, just like any other big Polynesian kid who got talent. Yeah. And I said, you know what? I'm going to capitalize on this. I'm just going to say, my son's going to be a quarterback. And at 9 years old, he was the first time he played tackle football. The problem is, it's a weighted football. You know what I mean? This back then in Pop Warner. Yeah. It's not like now, 14U, 13U. Nah, this is when they weigh you.
All weight,
so DJ was a 3rd grader playing with 6th and 7th graders. Wow. Which was so unfair, man. But at the time, that's what it was. Right. Yeah. You know, and my son, man, I'm proud of him because the first game I remember, he was taking licks, man. They was taking shots at him. He didn't quit. He looked at me with tears running down his eyes. And I said, You okay? He said, I'm okay, Dad. I said, man, this guy's tough. But eventually it all worked out, you know what I mean? And he stuck it out. He wanted to quit after the first game, but I just told him a lesson that I think a lot of people should understand with their kids. If you start something, finish it, man. You make a decision, you follow through with your decision. If it's going to be hard and you want to quit, then just stay on the team, DJ, or play another position. You know, just be there, don't quit. So he did it. You know, eventually the coach said, man, we're going to move him to D-line. It took only one game, though. Then he says, oh, we got to move DJ back to quarterback. Wow. But he changed the dynamic on where now when DJ says hike, he knows what to do. He doesn't have to think. It's a slant or it's a bomb, you know what I mean, or it's a handoff. So he won't allow this 9 years old to try to figure it out. Right. And that probably really saved football for him. And the rest is history after that. Yeah.
I kind of want to piggyback up because you talked about seeing the gift. Yeah. And then as a father, you made a conscious decision that, hey, I'm going to do everything I can to make this gift grow. And I'm going to water it. I'm going to spend the time. I'm going to quit bodyguarding and work 3 or 4 jobs just to make sure I'm here with them. I'm sure that was a tough transition for you, for the family. What was it in you that kind of, kept you going? Because I know as a father, there's so many different feelings you have. You know what I'm saying? You was the man making money here. Now you're scrounging 3 or 4 jobs. What was it that kind of kept you going?
It's the love for your kids, bro. It's the love for your family. For me, I'm the #1 fan. People don't get it. They think some people think like, you know, I don't know, whatever they want to think. What they don't understand is I love my kids with everything. And that's what kept me figuring out. See, I didn't know I was doing it though, but I was building a brand. I didn't understand, I understood the power of social media.
Yeah.
That's why I love IG and Facebook, because you can hear me say it, or go back 10 years record on you don't got to hear me say it. Go back and see all my posts. Because people can tell you. So some people, and this I'm going to say this, some people not going to like what you do.
Right.
Yeah. And some people not going to agree with what you do. But this is what I say to them. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
You're not putting food on my table.
Right.
And there's no disrespect to you. These are my kids, and I'm going to run it the way I feel fits. Yeah. I had to step outside the box sometimes. I had to do things like this. DJ was a 4th grader, and I took him to a high school camp. Some parents think I was crazy. Yeah. You know what they think of me now? Damn, man, I should have did what Dave did. Yeah. And they are doing it. I see so many people posting videos of their kids, you know, doing what Big Dave Blueprint is. And it was never meant to, like, disrespect anybody. It was meant to show you, look, that's your kid. Yeah. Who's going to go hard for your kid than you? The father. So my message sometimes is, don't worry about what other people opinion or what they think, oh, you shouldn't do that with your kid. Man, I did it when they were that young. I was posting, I was doing things that was considered crazy, but you got to be a little crazy, man, to do this with your kids. Right. So, you know, now they seen the success of my kids, and a lot of it came from my kids' decisions of, you know what I mean? It was their decision to put in the work. That's what they need to understand. Yeah, there was one part of me promoting them, but the other part was DJ and Matayo made the decision to do the work. Right. They weren't kids that was afraid of the smoke. They were kids that woke up every morning. DJ is the hardest worker I know. DJ is. Matayo's hard as heck too. You know how you go to a training facility, they have different times of, okay, they're doing this with the DBs, they're doing this with the linebackers, they're doing this. This fool Matayo, after his freshman year, he wasn't really happy on how his performance. He was going to every session. I said, so like, you're not a DB. So I think that's what added to him playing all these positions. Yeah. Because he could play O-line tackle and tight end and receiver on offense. And he can go play D tackle, D end, and linebacker. That's how talented that kid is.
That's versatile.
There's a clip that's been going viral, if you haven't seen it, of Matayo playing defense, and quarterback throws and he just kind of snatches the ball out there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that shit was cold.
When I saw that, I was like, okay, there's no question. This guy's special.
No, Matayo, and to add on to that, Matayo had 4 picks that 2 days he was out there. Yeah. You know, that's a lot. He don't even play linebacker, bro. But the fact that he understands, you know, how to read a quarterback or how to play his position to where he can get 4 picks in that whole situation. And he never really played linebacker in high school. But, you know, that just goes to his training and his decision to go out there and just try to be the best he could be.
That's dope. Know? I mean,
to understand the game.
I know talent is something that runs in your family. Yeah. But as a father, like, what were some of the kind of the hard conversations you had to have with your sons growing up?
Oh man, and I encourage that to everybody. It's hard. I just recently, you know, sometimes you can't really have a hard conversation with your kid. You're just trying to make them happy. And I feel that's one of the things I wish I would have done a little bit earlier in their life. And I people that watching this, have the hard conversations with your kids. You know what I mean? But yeah, there was some hard ones with me and DJ. Definitely with Matayo, you know, and in the beginning, I didn't really know a lot about that. You know, I knew about hard conversations, but I was just trying to make sure they were happy and, you know, but I know now how important it is, you know, just having those hard conversations with my boys and being real with them. You know, I used to try to. Me and the mom, we decided to try to raise them in a box. You know, I don't think they ever slept over anybody's house because we didn't allow it. We kept them at the house. If people want to sleep over, they come over. You know what I mean? Why I say this is because we try to keep them, you know, away. We understood what we had. We didn't want to. I think they had the first time they ever had video games. They really didn't grew up with video games. You know, I don't think we had a lot of fancy stuff for them. But going back thinking about the hard conversations, you know, we're having them now. You know, people that really know what's going on, they know. You know, and it's something that's very important. You gotta have with your kids. You know.
There was a tweet that you had put out, because anybody knows Big Dave was very, very active on social media. Very active. I take notes from him sometimes. I'm like, I can't do it like that. But there was a tweet that you had put out. This is kind of around the time that the NCAA came out with the NIL, right? And you had stated that, you know, basically putting this out there for parents and their kids that it's not about the school that you like the best. It's about how much you can get from the situation. Because now we're talking business, right? Yeah. These kids can actually make money, and lots of money, off of their brand, and that's something that you've helped your kids build coming in to a situation. I want to know about you know, as DJs approaching, you know, recruitment and all that, how are you maneuvering with your boys to kind of pick the right opportunities? And there's a lot of people that see price tags on your children's heads, and you got to be protected. How are you kind of maneuvering through all the opportunities that are coming your way?
Well, you know, I got to be straight up. You know, the first time around with my son DJ, I kind of messed up and brought some people to the circle to where when me and the wife had a divorce, people know who I'm talking about. You know what I mean? And you know, I didn't really have my hand on my older son's situation because of the divorce. So I felt as a father, I did what I did. I was a father to him, and your success, now that you're seeing now, all came from the work that I started from when you was young.
Right.
It's I didn't do it to gain any bread from you. You know what I mean? Like I did it. It's called unconditional love. So that question you asked, I put that tweet out. It was crazy because that tweet went crazy.
It did, yeah.
And I got a lot of backlash for it.
A lot of eyes were on that, man.
Yeah, people thought I put that out there because I wanted money for Matayo.
Right, yeah.
And I put it out there because, man, it's the truth.
It is.
They made it legal. So the reason why I talk about DJ, because I wasn't a part of it, bro. I wasn't a part of it. It was just him, his mama, and a certain individual that people know what I'm talking about. And they did their little thing with that, and it is what it is. But with my youngest son, I made sure I called every coach, and I told every coach who's recruiting my son, the only people you deal with is me and his mama. Ain't nobody coming, ain't no more these side hustlers coming in, making side deals, because that's what happened with my older one. And it wasn't, I'm not gonna blame nobody. At the end of the day, you have to man up to whatever your fuck up. I made some mistakes. I allowed people into this circle that had their own agenda. And honestly, man, it hurts, but then again, through struggle, through failure, two key components to success. That was my little struggle in that, to where I learned now that it ain't gonna happen the second time around with my youngest son, Matayo. So Matayo, I just made sure all the coaches, you only deal with the mama and you deal with me.
Right.
I still respect the mom. I will never, you know what I mean? She was the best mom. She was the best wife. Whatever happened, happened. But yeah, this time around with my son, to maneuver, it's crazy because so many people do come. Yeah. Matayo is like, they all see dollar signs on him. And in the way it's going now, man, it's crazy, man. You see my nephew Nico, man. We went last year when we flew around and took Nico to, you know, all these colleges last year, they didn't really know Nico like that. You know, after the trip we took, oh, bro, everybody just fell in love with Nico, man.
Yeah.
And me and Big Nick, we knew what we had. I knew, there's no doubt in my mind, he's the #1 player in the country right now. You know what I mean? So that's why he locked in that little deal with Tennessee and everything. And people can be mad and hate the fact that, you know, well, you don't pay the kid that much. He don't deserve it. What they don't know is this. I know Nico when he was a little kid. This little dude was putting in work from that little kid to high school. You can't sit there and tell me he didn't put that work in. You can't sit there and tell me my son DJ didn't put the work in, or Matayo. I saw it with my own eyes.
Right.
They deserve $8 million. Trust me.
Yeah.
They deserve more than that. You know what I mean? So everyone can have their opinion, but I saw it with my own eyes. These kids that are getting these big deals, their parents sacrificed a lot.
A lot.
Nigga, Big Nick, you don't understand. I remember Nico couldn't throw the ball 20 yards when he first started. But Big Nick, they didn't stop him. No, hell, you going to get this. Man, look where he at now. That boy probably has the best arm right now in the game. And that's because Big Nick let his kids do that work. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that tweet, it kind of like caused some ruckus, but at the end of the day, people need to understand it's a business now. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You talking about families that ain't got no bread, and a kid that wants to bless his mom and dad with some, you know what I mean? You know how much it meant to little Nico to be able to give this opportunity to his mom and dad? You know what I mean? Like, it's huge, man.
Right.
And some people want to have their opinion and want to say what they want. We don't care about it, man. Shout out to Nico and his dad, Big Nick, on what you guys are doing. You know what I mean? Leading the way for us Polynesians out there.
Hey, man, shout out to all of our poly athletes out there.
For real.
Get into the bag, you know what I'm saying? If you've built the brand, you put the time in, and you're negotiating deals that you deserve, that's the way it should be, man. So many of our poly athletes, you know, and prior to the NIL era, talented, injuries, and they kind of get washed away opportunity, but they put so much work in leading up to it. You talked about the parents and these football camps and gear, all this stuff. It costs money, time, sacrifice. So it only makes sense for these young poly athletes to be able to negotiate deals and get their money now. You know what I'm saying? So I love to see it, man.
I want them to lawyer up, man. Get a lawyer. That's what Nick did. He's so smart. Nick was so, like, he did his due diligence. You know what I'm saying? And the one thing I've always stressed to him: don't let nobody come in and be the middleman or whatever. Nick, you know everything. You do your work. Learn it. If you don't know it, this is the real thing. Fake it till you make it, bro. Trust me. Act like you know it. They gonna give you that respect, you know what I mean? But yeah, man.
Man, so it's big. Your kids are just killing it in football. DJ's, he's in the second year?
Third year.
Third year. Okay, so Matayo's senior year, right? Looking at different options. He's got the whole field of options, right? And we love to see it though. So we kind of want to transition into your impact in music, because a lot of people don't know you were heavily influenced. You played a heavily influence in the music game, and we want to talk about your relationship with G.CA O. You know, we had recently put a post out there that went crazy. The love for G.CA O and his impact. Can you talk about your relationship with him and music?
Man, it's crazy because it starts in 2000.
Okay.
You know, well, if people don't know, I'm just going. This is a story that I've known G for years. His dad Pat, and I was introduced into the family through my cousin Steve, and he's my dad's brother's son. And he was living in Lake Elsinore. Okay. This is how it all started, bro. So I can say for a fact I brought the first deal to G.CA O. And this is how it happened. At the time, my cousin Steve was living in Lake Elsinore, 2000, 2001. And he comes and tells me he has, these producers, this poly producer, right? And I'm like, really, who? He said, Dave, can you come? And, at that time, I'm in Hollywood heavy, you know what I mean? Working Bodyguard with all these people, you know what I'm saying? So I go out there to go see him. And I walk in the house, met Pat, the dad, and I see Brandon, he on the keyboard. And at that time, Brandon wasn't the Brandon like this. Brandon was just playing a little bit, right?
Okay.
So there was a kid that he was part of. His name is C-Note. He was a producer too. It was those two. They were a team. But at the time, C-Note was more of the guy who was, he was the producer guy.
Gotcha.
Right? But Brandon was right there behind him. You know what I mean? There were two teammates. I come in there and their beats they were playing me, dumbfounded. I was like, what the hell? I was blown away by it. You know what I mean? So we quickly quickly became friends, and I just started, you know what? As I was working in Hollywood, I just tried to figure out ways to be able to promote this. You know what I mean? It was G.CA O and C-Note, those two. That was the two duo. You know what I mean? So I was figuring out in my head, like, man, how we gonna do this? And me, man, I'm straight ghetto with it, nigga. I said, hey, I looked at Pat, he had an Astro van up. I said, and this is about
Astro van.
Astro van,
bro. And this was at 12 midnight, and it was on a Tuesday night, and the hottest club in Hollywood. It was on, oh my gosh, I forgot the name of the damn street. Las Palmas.
Okay.
My brother Tadao would know. So I said to myself, hey, everybody jump in the van. G.CA O, Brandon. I don't think C-Note was there, but all the family, you know what I mean? All the boys that was there, jump in the van. Bring the beats. We drive all the way to Hollywood on Las Palmas and Hollywood Boulevard. That's when I say the hottest, everybody you can think of is at that club.
Okay.
Right? So I pull up in the front of the club with G.CA O, with all the homies in the car. Open the door, and I waited till about 2:15. I mean, about maybe 10 minutes to 2.
And everybody comes out?
Yes.
Yeah.
Then I start opening the door, I start banging the beats. That's how ghetto I was, bro. I didn't do shit, bro.
That nigga pulled up, hey, listen to this.
Yeah. So the valet tried to tell me to move, and I looked at the valet, like Booyah tried to say, nigga, I'll grab your face like a basketball and bounce your ass back. You know what I mean? He looked at me, oh, man, I don't want to mess with this dude. We play the beats, bro.
Yeah.
Jamie Foxx walks out.
Jamie Foxx.
He like, Big Dave. I said, hey, man, listen, this is my nephew, boom, bam, boom, doing all of that.
Yeah.
He listens. He said, man, take the number down, set a meeting up with that.
Yeah.
Yuck Mouth come out.
Yuck Mouth, okay.
Bam, boom, he set up a meeting, boom, bam. But the one that really, that really was crazy, so y'all ever heard of Aaron Hall with Guy,
Oh, yeah.
I Miss You.
Yeah.
He has a brother named Bishop Hall. Bishop Hall worked for Babyface at Edmonds' office.
Shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's driving out. I said, Bishop, hold up, nigga. Oh, so sorry.
Yeah.
Bishop, hold up.
Yeah.
He comes up and he's like, damn, this your kids? I said, yup. He's like, hey, gives me another meeting, you know what I mean?
Damn.
So we had about 3-4 meetings set up just from that.
Pulled up in the Astro.
Yeah. So
Shout out to the Astro.
Hold up. I'm going to let, so we go to most of these meetings, right? But the one that really stands out is the one we went with Bishop. So I take Brandon, and C-Note couldn't make it. So me and Brandon went up there to Bishop. Bishop plays the beats. It's these offices. So we on like the 3rd floor, and then the top floors where all those guys are at. And we play the beats for him, and Bishop keep turning to Brandon. Y'all made these beats? And looking at me, bro, these beats is hard. You know what I mean? Just being dumbfounded, like how these kids can make these kind of beats. So he said, you know what? Bam, they just took us straight up to the top, to the president. It was Babyface's cousin. Oh, and we sat in front of him, and we played the beats for him. They were dumbfounded, just like how, everybody else that hear the beats.
Yeah.
They couldn't believe it. And he calls Babyface. Babyface was on vacation. The dude came back off his vacation just to meet Brandon and C-Note.
No shit.
So,
man.
So I'm saying this story so it can be out there.
Right.
Because this is what really happened. So Babyface came to meet Brandon and C-Note. C-Note had his own manager. The manager was kind of for C-Note and Brandon.
Uh-huh.
But old dude was from Miami. He was Colombian. So, he was kind of doing his thing out there.
Yeah.
I wasn't trying to be their manager. I was trying to be the guy that I want everybody to remember me by. I just want to help people, man.
Yeah.
I knew I was in that industry, and that's just all I wanted to do.
Right.
There was nothing to be tied to, like, man, break me off. I didn't know nothing about percentage, nothing. All I knew was these two was talented, and this world need to hear their music.
Yeah. Hey, side note, Wuka, I want to pause real quick because that's a gem right there. So many people in our poly community, if you have a plug, if you have a resource, if you have knowledge, if you have information that can help someone else out, a quick phone call or a quick, hey, let me introduce you to this person, that goes such a long way, and it could help someone tremendously, and it don't cost you much. It didn't take for you much to say, hey, hop in the van, we're gonna drive.
Not even.
That's important, man. I want to highlight that because there's so many people doing things in our culture where you see someone struggling, you see someone trying to build a brand, and you look the other way.
Yeah.
When you can easily pick up a phone, hey, this is my brother, he's trying to do this, boom. So I just wanted to highlight that because what you shared, that's something we should all think more deeply about and try to implement more of it in our culture. You know what I'm saying?
It's not always about trying to make bread.
Right.
It's not always trying to get, you know what I mean? But, well, yeah, we're in this meeting, bro.
Okay.
And I'm looking at Babyface. I'm like, damn, bro, I can't believe I'm here. I see him all the time doing my Bodyguard shit, but I just, I'm a fan of all his music. So he basically offers them. The offer is to sign those two, and whatever they make in the next 3 years it'll be all Babyface stuff. And yeah, so that's just how this industry is. But see, they I think it was 100,000, 200,000, the 100,000 for the first year, 200,000 second year, 300,000 the third year, $600,000 total.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at it and I'm like, the manager didn't like the deal. He's like, why they gotta make music and it be? I said, listen, they're 17 years old, 18, 19, 20. They'll be 20 years old by the time they're out of this. They make $600,000. And the fact is this, what people don't know is if you're in that industry, everyone gonna know who the real motherfuckers who's making the music.
Yeah, right.
It doesn't matter if Babyface puts it out and it's on his name. If people in the industry gonna know it's you really making the music.
Right.
I believe for them not signing that, if they would have signed it, it would have kicked off what they were supposed to be. Mm-hmm. I still Bishop, if he sees this, he gonna know. We both was like, man, they should have signed that deal.
Yeah.
It didn't matter if he was gonna own all the stuff that they create. Who cares? That's just 3 years of your life. Mm-hmm. You got the rest. And you got 600 racks to talk about it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You tell me you 17-year-old, you ain't making no 600 racks, But that's what happened back then. That was their first deal ever offered to them.
Wow.
And I'm and I don't think a lot of people don't know that. I was really close with Brandon, you know what I mean? And his dad. After that, we did a lot of stuff together, you know what I mean? And the part I'm pissed off is I never took one picture with Brandon.
That's crazy.
That's crazy, bro. How come I never took a picture with Brandon, man? But he used to spend time at my house, come make music. The dude only eats cereal, bro. That's all you have to have is cereal. This guy eats
breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Cereal.
Man.
But it's funny, back then, this is how he was meant to do what he did. Then he wouldn't, when we first started this in 2000, his keyboard wasn't all that great. Mm-hmm. He went and taught himself, man, to the point where he was better than almost everybody. That's probably the best keyboard player, poly kid I know, you know what I mean? All that stuff you see on YouTube, that was in my studio.
Wow.
You know what I mean? That was in my studio. And people don't understand Brandon, man, he was a kid that, he was leading, he was a leader, man. He kicked off something that was now everybody's listening to now, with YG and them.
So fast forward from that Babyface deal,
yeah.
How did G.CA O get in connection with Mustard, YG, and Ty Dolla? How did that whole connection come about?
Well, it was through Ty Dolla $ign.
Okay.
He was a producer, so just everybody need to understand this. They all signed the same production deal. Ty Dolla $ign, G.CA O, DJ Mustard. He was part of that. So what you see today is G would have been right there with him.
Yeah.
G would have been rolling in a damn Phantom, bro. And it's hard because I know G, he's such a giver. I wouldn't even know how he could, I know G would, but he would be right there with those guys, you know what I'm saying? I remember taking G to Ty Dolla dad house. That's where they used to make their music out of, and a little spot in Hollywood. And you know, every now and when I'm back in town, I would pick him up, take him, and go meet all these guys he's with. And he was doing his thing. He would always hook me up with Pro Tools plugins. You know what I mean? The crap ones, so we don't gotta pay.
Yeah,
that's dope.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Oh,
yeah, that's dope.
Brandon was the guy. He had it all. You know, and it was just watching him go through that growth with Ty Dolla and working with all these big artists. You know what I mean? Joe Moses at the time, they weren't nobody back in those days, but they eventually started getting songs on the radio. That's what helped them out.
You know, just in the short time that we were talking with you, I don't know if you realize it, but I feel like one of your gifts is you can see potential in somebody right away.
Yeah.
You talked about it from the first time you seen your son DJ play, Matayo, G.CA O. You could see it, but then you also have the heart to help somebody, because a lot of people can see it, but they don't actually act on it. So you can see the talent, and then you want to help that talent.
I got a name for you. Dinah Jane.
I was gonna ask you about that.
The dad and mom came to me when she was 11. Her first videos of her being in the studio, that was mine when she was 12 on YouTube.
That's crazy.
That is
Make sure you
crazy,
post it.
man.
Oh yeah, we're gonna throw that in there for sure.
So you met her when she was at the age of 12?
I met her at 11. Well, I've known Dinah since she was a little.
Oh, she was a little bit. Oh, okay, okay.
Me and her dad, we all friends.
Oh, okay.
We played together at Mount Sac, Gordon.
Got you.
And Lika, I've known Lika, the mom, through church. Lika, you think Dinah could sing? Lika could blow.
Sheesh.
Yeah, that's where she get that talent from.
Oh, I seen on your page that they got a song together. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
Lika can blow. So to speak on what you're saying, you know, I saw Dinah when they brought Dinah to me. I knew the one thing I was always promoting and posting. I just wanted to see Dinah swim with the sharks, and she did.
Yeah,
she did.
Proud of her, man. She's done a lot.
She's done a lot.
She's just getting started too, man.
People don't understand. She just.
You barely get.
Donna is. I remember, you know, they just had this concert out here in the desert.
Major Vibes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And you know, Common Kings and all of them out there.
Yeah.
Well, I look up there. I'm like, oh man, who that female girl up there? Damn. Then I get close. Oh my God, that's Dinah. I walk in the back. I said, Dinah, put some clothes on. No, I was just kidding. You looked amazing. You know what I mean? But it's just so cool to see that I had a chance to see you as an innocent little girl.
Yeah.
Not saying you're not innocent now, but you know what I mean? You grown now. You know what I mean? You be that woman. You be that sexy woman.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we want you to, like all these artists that are getting now, you know, get your flowers now. You know, and I want to give it to you, Dinah. She know me. She know how much I love her and what I've always told her. You know, going into this industry, I told her before it even happened that it's gonna get crazy. You know what I mean? You're gonna get tired. Oh, and when she was a little girl, I'll never get tired. I want to travel. And I said, oh yeah. When I talked to her when she was doing all that stuff with Fifth Harmony, Uncle, you were right. You know, it's to speak onto what you said, man. I can. There's another girl that I'm working with now, Felly Fell.
Okay.
I don't know if you ever heard of her.
No, I haven't.
She dope.
We're going to have to tap in.
We'll definitely tap in.
After, I'll show you, man. And
I kind of want to transition back to, this was a pivotal moment in our culture and G.CA O's career, but when Toot and the Booted came out, that song to this day is a West Coast classic.
It's a classic.
It helped launch the careers of YG, Mustard, Ty Dolla. That song put everybody on the map.
And I need to let everybody know, Brandon produced that track.
Yes.
Brandon produced that track. I don't know. I know when you read the credits, you see Ty Dolla, and no disrespect to Ty, and he know who I am too. So he know what's cracking. Every time I see them, they already know G.CA O. I yell it out. Yeah. You know what I mean? Every time I see them, they know I yell it out. G. And but yes, Brandon produced that track, man. You know what I'm saying?
Do you remember the moment when that song kind of like got legs and took off? Do you remember what was the vibe like around that time?
Yeah. Well,
I remember listening to it. I was like,
I remember listening to it.
I heard it before. And I ain't gonna lie, I wasn't a fan of it. Brandon complained it in my studio. I'm like, what the hell is that, man? See, Brandon, he was so ahead of the game. The 808s and all of that stuff. You know what I mean? I figure like that's old school, you know what I mean? Yep. Never did I think that, man, this fool brought it all back with that song. And he said, Dad, this gonna be the biggest song. Okay, man. I want to say a couple months after that, then it catches, oh, man, Brandon, how did you know? You know what I mean? And it blew up. It blew up, man. Opened a lot of doors for Brandon.
Such a big song. I mean, to this day, like I said, it still slaps.
Yeah, still does.
And I'm glad that you're able to highlight that he was the producer on that track, because in the credits it doesn't show that, but he did. You know what I'm saying? That's a big win for him, for the culture.
Man.
And the question always looms, like, the what if? The what if he was still here? That we talked about this offline. That it's kind of angering to think that someone so influential, you know what I'm saying, was cut so short, because you could see the trajectory of his career was going up. You know what I'm saying? It was.
I honestly believe we need to have a movie. I'm gonna put it out there right now. They need to do a movie on Brandon, because Brandon helped create the new culture that you got. These young kids are listening to all these these raps. What is it? Trap music, all of this stuff, man. He pioneered some of that stuff, man. Trust me, man. I used to always wonder, why are you putting 808s in yours? But now there's nothing but 808s in this damn music now. You know what I mean? Like he was that guy who I just feel they need to do a movie on Brandon and his life, because such a great kid, came out of nowhere, fell in love to make music, but he was a kid that went and did his work. You know what I mean? He put in the work. When in the beginning in 2001, 2000, he's playing piano with 2-3 fingers. Yo, by the time 2005 or 6, oh my goodness, it's like, who is this kid? Because he put in that work. That's how much he loved it. But just all the little, Pat knows it best. His dad, he knows the story. And I believe it needs to be told, man, because this guy he's a big influence on a lot of people. If you go talk to, so me and my son was out in Hollywood at a studio, and a couple producers that were there. I forgot the brother's name, but they were big. As soon as we mentioned G.CA O, they couldn't believe we knew him.
Wow.
They were huge fans of G.CA O. They were right there with him. They're like, Dave, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for G. And I love hearing that. You know what I mean? That's why we gotta keep his legacy alive, because G.CA O is just not some guy we know who can play the piano good. You know what I mean? Nah, G.CA O was a part of creating something that this culture. It's about culture, bro.
Right. Yeah.
And this culture, Brandon was probably played the biggest role in this culture that we are in right now.
Facts.
And
I want to take you back to April 22nd, 2011, when the news broke out that he was involved with an incident where his life was taken. Where were you at on that day, and can you kind of walk us through your emotions when you found out that day?
I cried my eyes out. I was working at Pomona Unified, the school police job, and I had to leave. I was so hurt. Your brother, you hear that, he's gone. I couldn't believe it. I wanted to know all the facts. Like, it doesn't make sense. This is the craziest part too. All this, G.CA O, C-Note, and my cousin Steve, they all died. So like, I just don't understand it. I don't. But that day, man, it was hard. Trying to find Pat where he had, just trying to figure. We were just in the studio in Carson, and about a week or 2 weeks before that, and I just didn't understand what was, why. I mean, a kid like that who has no hate for nobody. Brandon loved everyone. He loved everyone, man. He such a great kid, man. Things you don't understand, but you just have to live with what happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah, his passing. Even looking back and not being directly there, kind of someone looking back in history, it is one of those it doesn't make sense moments. You look at his impact musically. He's spoken so highly of his family. It's definitely one of those things that used to always be a question. But like you said, his legacy is still alive to this day. And to see so many young poly producers following his footsteps, not even knowing that, hey, man, you're following in G.CA O's footsteps.
My son, bro.
Oh,
he does music too.
Young Concrete.
Yeah.
I almost was like, hey, man, we should be calling you Young G.CA O.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a...
Yeah, to piggyback off that, you know, what made him start to produce Young Concrete?
Well, he knew we were all into music.
Yeah.
And he just one day wanted to try it, and he had GarageBand on his thing. And he did his thing, and then he came and played a beat for me. I was like, damn, you're good.
Yeah.
I was praying that one of my kids did music.
Yeah. So if people don't know, Matayo actually produced one of our artists that we always talk about, Craig.
Yeah.
Brown Skin, if you guys didn't know that.
Yeah. That's one of his biggest songs.
Yeah, one of his biggest songs that everyone knows, you know what I mean? So shout out to Young Concrete. Shout out to Matayo, man. For real.
Now you know.
Yeah, now you know. If you didn't know, now you know. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
That's crazy. You know, it's cool to see that music is around your family. That's awesome. You know, I love music, so when we start talking about it being instilled into us like that, it's great.
How do you feel when you look at this new generation of Polynesian talent? I mean, there's so much.
Man, it's amazing. It's amazing things you pray for. You know what I mean? When I look at them, it was us when we were young. They're lucky you didn't have YouTube and back when we was young.
Yeah,
we was all harmonizing, you know, singing Boys to Men and all that. It's hard to get by, all that stuff, man. And it's so refreshing. It's so amazing to see young kids turn to music. You know, what they don't know is the music is really built in us. You know, we polys, man, they love music. You know what I mean? And there's some talented people out there, man. And it's just hard to bridge that to the industry, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
And, I love the fact that they don't care. They're still out there doing their thing. When I hear D-Boy talk about, you know what I mean, I'm doing it on my own, independent. And that's you don't even need a big studio no more. You can do that right out your house.
Right.
It's just about doing the work and getting it on you know, on wax and just putting it out there, man.
Yeah.
You know, and definitely love all the music I'm hearing now. Man, Young Go, that dude, he can go.
He's cold, man.
He's cold.
Yeah, we're gonna get him on here soon too.
Yeah.
Man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Big fan of Young Go. Big fan of all. There's so much talent out there, man.
So much, bro.
From producers to rappers, singers, dancers, stylists, people just doing it all across the board, man. And you know, you had mentioned G.CA O, and he's someone that we'll always hold up there in terms of being influential in this music shit. So,
facts.
You know, we wish we could talk more, and you know, we short on time, but we just want to say thank you for coming by and sharing your life experiences with us.
Sir.
Thank you
for highlighting some well-known facts that wasn't out there that now people know.
The world needs to know, and I really do appreciate it.
And really just your legacy and pushing the culture forward, all the people that you've helped, and just keep doing what you're doing, man.
Look, first and foremost, I want to thank you two for creating this situation, creating this stage. You know, I know it's not easy, but the one message I want to tell people is bet on yourself. You know, it's not always about working for the man. And when I say that is, they set you up, go to college, get a degree, so you can work for the man. Look, man, you can be the man. Thanks. You can be that guy. What they need to teach our kids is to go open an LLC, go start an S Corp, to open your own business. And don't be afraid. Nike, the owner of Nike, I know him, you know, but what I'm going to say is he failed 100 times before it became what it became. So people need to understand, don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to go out there and try to bet on yourself. Thanks. You rather lose when you're doing it for you than doing it for someone else. Yeah. I promise you. So that's like kind of the key message to see you two right now doing what you're doing. And you know what, man, it's such a blessing to see that. And hopefully, you know, this will go on. Your podcast will blow up. You know what I mean? Just ask you guys to be the humble guys that you are.
Thanks.
But at the end of the day, man, just keep, when you're helping somebody else, trust me, it does a saying though. When you do good things gonna come back.
That's facts.
I'm a key fact to it.
Hey man, that's the big takeaway from everything we talked about.
Yeah.
Bet on yourself be a blessing to others, and just remember, we all win, man. You know what I'm saying? One win for you is a win for the culture. You know what I'm saying? Give back, and we out of here, man. We all win.
We all win, baby.
Episode number 4. Big Dave came through and blessed us with it, man.
Yes, sir.
And don't forget, subscribe, man. Hit the subscribe button, share.
Like, comment.
We want this information to be shared with everybody out there. So
Go follow us on all socials. TikTok,
follow us. Follow Dave.
Instagram.
Tap
Follow Dave,
in.
Big Dave.
Everything he's got going on, man. Much love.
Thank you, man.
Yep.
God bless.
We out of here.
Yeah, man.